Welcome back to Slingshot The Podcast. Happy to be with you again today. We've got a hot topic to discuss, and I hope you're ready for it. Tonight, we're going to talk about the fact that we don't have to stay here. And that's the title of today's episode, that we don't have to stay here. And I'm coming a roundabout way as we talk about this topic. And I'm going to start with immigration, because right now, this is the hot topic in the nation. And immigration rights, and those most impacted by immigration in this country, is really causing a firestorm of controversy. And so I'm going to kick today's episode off with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Many of you by now have heard his story, the plight of this single individual, this father, this man who has lived in Maryland for quite some time, and has been wrongly deported and mistakenly deported to El Salvador, where he is currently in the most notorious prison in the world in this moment. And some will still call it a prison. Some of us might call it a concentration camp, as Abrego and others have not been given due process before being sent to this prison, we'll call it today. So due process, it is a fundamental American principle. It is what ensures that our rights and our freedoms are protected, and it ensures that our justice system is working for all of us, and not just American citizens, but anyone who is in our land. And so in this moment, we are having a crisis of checks and balances and a crisis of separation of powers, because Abrego Garcia, it has been ruled by the United States Supreme Court, should be returned back to the United States. The current Trump regime is saying that they are not interested in bringing him back, that they don't have the power to bring him back to the United States. Well, there are some folks like Maryland U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen, who has made the trip just recently at the time of us filming this podcast today. This is not America. The argument is being made in this moment that foreigners are gang affiliated, that the majority of foreigners or those immigrating legally, even seeking asylum to this country, have gang affiliations, and that they lack law and order. That's been the argument. It's been pushed back by many. And the Supreme Court, as I mentioned, has ordered the return of Abrego Garcia back to the United States. Imprisonment without due process in a notorious facility is a concentration camp. And so we hope that by the time you are listening to this or watching this podcast, that there has been a rectifying of this situation, and the letter of the law and order, has been followed, and Abrego Garcia has been returned home to his family in Maryland. So I start tonight's episode off with this topic of Abrego Garcia, because it leads me into a situation I just recently encountered myself. As CEO of a voting rights organization, one that is all about law and order and ensuring voting rights and ensuring that we have a secure democracy, I find myself sometimes getting involved in protests and rallies. And just the other day, as I was going through my Facebook feed towards the end of my workday, and finishing up all my Zoom meetings, I came across an event that was happening less than a mile from my house. And I can't deny myself any opportunity to speak up and speak out, as the late John Lewis would say, and get into a little good trouble. And so I did leave my house and went to a protest that was happening on an overpass near my house. This is Chesterbrook, Chester County. And this is the overpass of 202 and 252. And I arrived to this rally that was only supposed to happen from 4 to 6 p.m. And I arrived a little bit after 5:30. And I got to the rally and I had my sign of John Lewis, who I obviously admire, all the incredible work of John Lewis. And the sign that I had with me was really important to me, because the John Lewis sign that I was carrying mentions how we must speak up and speak out, that we can never be afraid to do what's right and what's just. So I took this sign with me to this protest, asking for our government to honor the Constitution and bring this man back home. Within 5 minutes of my arrival on the overpass, we were approached by a gentleman who walked up to the quiet and peaceful protest that we were having, and had a phone camera in his hand. And he walked up to all of us very quickly and abruptly with his camera phone out in our faces, recording. Now, protesting, attending rallies, demonstrations is not new to me. I've done a lot of them. I've organized some, led some. This particular event I did not organize, and I'm grateful for those who did. And in this moment, as this man approached us out of nowhere, dressed in a suit, where the rest of us were in sweats and jeans, with his camera out, he approached one of the organizers of the event and said that he was an independent journalist and he wanted to film us in our protest. Well, I'll tell you something. I've been around long enough to know who truly is a journalist and who's not. This man had no credentials. If we're going to just say it, he didn't look like a journalist. And he had no way to even prove that he truly was an independent journalist, as he said. He was asked by one of my fellow protesters what publication he worked for. He said it. He made up one, I believe. I've never heard of this publication before, ever. And he proceeded to harass us. And there's no other word for it besides harassment. I had whispered to some of my fellow protesters to just ignore him. Ignore him because what we wanted was attention. And we didn't want to give him this attention. This is what he was seeking in this moment. And so he continued to harass us as we continued to try to ignore him. I'm going to show you the video of this exact encounter so you get to see this. Shortly, you'll get to see. But I do want to set it up for you. We tried numerous times to tell this man to leave us alone, to go away, that we would not be engaging him in conversation, but he relented. And it came down to the end of our engagement when he was very hostile about the fact that we were not giving him the attention that he needed, that he abruptly walked away. I will say for context, I was the only Black person attending this protest and demonstration on an overpass. The organizers of the event are not folks of color, although there was at least one other person of color attending this protest with me. It was a small event, less than 10 of us out there. But we were absolutely getting into some good trouble, and we were getting honks and waves from down below on 202 and up top as we were on the overpass. Well, when the gentleman walked away, he abruptly, and out of my earshot, told me to go back to Africa. And it wasn't the first time in my life I've heard that, and likely won't be the last time. But it did shock me. It did shock me to find out that that's exactly what he thought I should do. And also, I was the only one of the group that he decided to express his anger and frustration. So we're going to watch this video.
What was your name again?
My name is John McCarthy. What's your name?
And what was your company?
First Right Media. It's named after the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Oh.
And what's
great.
your name? Yeah, so that's why I'm just trying to figure out what the story is here, but you guys don't want to talk.
No, we don't engage with people.
But you guys have signs out. You're trying to get noticed by people, and you're getting noticed, but you don't want to talk about what you're standing for. So was Abrego Garcia, is he an illegal alien?
No, he was someone here on asylum.
Here on asylum, okay.
Jen, we're not engaging.
We're not engaging with the reporter. All right. Maybe that's why you guys lost the election last year, because you didn't want to engage with reporters. If you guys want to win elections, let's have a conversation. We're all Americans here, but you guys are out here attracting attention, and you're getting attention. So what's going on? Just trying to get that sign. See, this is why you guys lose. You don't want to have a conversation. You guys are such losers. What kind of activists are you?
We're not
What kind of
engaging.
activists are you? You don't even want to talk about.
Not activists.
You guys are ridiculous. Yet you are a political activist who doesn't want to talk about what we stand for. You people are pathetic. You're pathetic. Go back to Africa.
All right. Well, you got the opportunity to witness what I experienced, and my fellow protesters got to experience. He was only with us a short time, maybe 7 minutes in total, before he finally got upset enough that he had to walk away. After telling me, of course, to go back to Africa. And so this leads me to what happened next, right? And this is the good part, because there are still some good people out here. And I'm not going to allow the experience brought to me by one individual dissuade me from all of the good works that are necessary in this moment and the good trouble we must get into to ensure all of our rights and freedoms are protected here in this country. But I will tell you that the video was posted to my Facebook page within an hour of the incident. And once it was posted, within minutes of it being posted to my Facebook page, people found out exactly who that man was. And it didn't take long. Turns out that man, his name is John McCarthy IV. He's from New Jersey. Somehow he found his way to Chester County, Pennsylvania on that day to take part in our small protest on an overpass. Well, John McCarthy, we know that to be his name because he told that name to us also in the video. Well, it comes to find out, for us to find out, John McCarthy is actually out on bail. All kinds of charges. Go to dailyvoice.com. That was an easy read for you to see that he is under charges right now for impersonating a police officer is one charge. For harassing folks in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. He has open warrants in Florida and in Texas. He has misdemeanor battery charges, also according to the dailyvoice.com article about him. This man was up to no good, and we knew it from the moment he walked over to us. He was there to try to disrupt peaceful activities we were involved in, and we didn't give him what he wanted, which forced him to walk away with his tail between his legs quickly back to his car and probably back to New Jersey. Well, we won't be taken off of our square in this moment, and we will continue to fight for what's right and what's just. And I should note that peaceful protests, 8-9 people, it's majority women. I believe there were 2 men there. And he felt very comfortable harassing us. He felt very secure in his position and within his privilege to harass us. And so I believe we handled this as well as any group could have handled a heckler of this nature who was trying to disrupt and not be, genuine with what it was he was trying to do in that moment. So I'm going to turn to my friend here, Charles Gregory.
Yes. How are you?
I'm still getting over this. It was just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, that's wild.
And, I have to drive over that overpass every day.
Unbelievable.
So now the last 2 times I've driven over it, I can only think about what happened on that overpass.
I'm sure. Now, not only is that seeing someone walk up to you now will become a trigger.
Right.
But that's, I'm sure it was traumatizing. And not to take away from the ladies, but I understand that it was only women out there. Maybe one gentleman out there. But I do believe that there's now conversation to have someone out there to make sure that they're always protecting your six or watching your six, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was troubling. I say one of the people that I reached out to immediately after this happened was my cousin, who's a former state trooper. Because I did have his license plate, and so
that's great.
So I wanted to find out if there was any help that could be done to find out who that man was who was harassing us. But like I said, didn't need it because the Facebook sleuths, they had it in minutes.
I'm telling you, look, the internet is unbeaten. It's unbeaten. But I'm glad you guys are safe.
Yeah.
I'm glad you came out because I think what you're doing right now is informing. You're actually live reporting at this point.
Yeah.
You're telling people, and what's going on out there. You're actually in those streets, and you're doing the good work. And so to see something like that is horrible. It's cowardly. But I do have a question though. McCarthy is an interesting name.
Mm-hmm.
Would he, by any chance, be related to maybe another McCarthy? I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure. His father is a judge.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
His father
Okay.
is a Princeton, New Jersey judge. And so I'm not sure. But what I find interesting, right, is that that's not an American name, whatever American name might actually be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I know factually from my family history,
Right.
we can trace our heritage back here to the 1700s.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about him.
No doubt. No doubt.
Right.
No doubt. And so okay. Well, I'm glad again that you guys are safe, and it's always a pleasure to see the great work that you guys are doing. And I happened to see the video, and all I could do watching that video is literally like grit my teeth.
Yeah.
I was gritting my teeth the whole time. I'm sure. We'll put a pause frame right here in the picture and then see this guy just kind of walking up to you guys holding his camera. But I do have a interesting question. One thing that we pride ourselves in doing is going out there and covering. What was it that triggered you to feel that he wasn't actually a part of any publication? I'm curious to that.
So I'm a journalist by trade myself, right? I'm a journalist by trade. It's what I went to school for. Temple grad, right? Klein Communication School.
Right.
And so you kind of get an idea. You have a feeling, he was dressed in a suit. It was wrinkled at that. He had probably been traveling in his car from New Jersey to where we were in Chester County.
Right.
And we just knew right off the bat that he didn't belong. Yeah, we knew right off the bat he didn't belong. And it was easy for us to pinpoint that. And he made himself very clear within the first 2 minutes of engaging us that he truly wasn't a journalist. So it wasn't hard for us to dispel that myth. But, he's also, as you'll read, if you read what's going on with this gentleman. This is what he likes to do. He likes to impersonate other people. His first charge is impersonating a police officer. And now he's impersonating a journalist.
Unbelievable.
But, a lot of people, though, think they're journalists nowadays just because they have a camera phone.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Shout out to your team member. I seen her. She pulled up her pants. She like had the sign like, yo, you was like, stand down, stand down. She was about to pull up her sleeves and say, he's like, don't interact with him. But it was good to see that she was ready for whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had to be, right? Because we had no idea that this man actually has weapon charges against him.
Yeah.
So if we weren't in a calm demeanor, it could have just totally excited him in a way in which could have been violent.
Yeah, absolutely.
It absolutely could have been violent. And I give it up to my ancestors, right? Because I think my ancestors whispered in my ear and they said, as I was doing the best I could to ignore everything he was doing and saying, I was ignoring him so much that I didn't even hear him initially tell me to go back to Africa. It wasn't until my fellow protester said, did you hear what he said to you? He said that you should go back to Africa. Yeah. And I said, let's rewind that tape. And we watched the video that they were taking of him. And when I got to hear him say, go back to Africa, and he said it, as quieter than he had been. And he also, after he said it, walked his behind right to that, that car a little more swiftly than he was walking earlier. Yeah.
So it was good that you guys didn't engage him. I was excited to see.
Yeah.
But that goes to your leadership, because I heard you tell her, don't engage, just ignore. And sometimes that's the best thing to do when it comes to protests like that, because everyone are on not only high alert, but also just emotionally driven and on both sides, right? And so that's what comes with the work that you do.
It does. It comes with the work that we do. And so I'm going to think about John McCarthy IV probably every time I go over that overpass. And it's the overpass by my house. And so I'm going to go there and think about him. And hopefully that dissipates and I can move on to other things. But right now it stings a little bit. Because, all the various reasons. You're watching Slingshot the Podcast. This is more than just a podcast. This is a movement to inspire and motivate and mobilize. This is for those whose voices have been unheard, misunderstood, undervalued, and underserved. We're going to talk about sports, culture, entertainment, and we're going to use this to build power in our communities. So, I'd like to close out the podcast on a more positive note. Having someone tell you to go back to Africa, a country you've never been to, don't know a single person in the entire continent of Africa that is a relative of yours. It's interesting for someone to tell you to go back to a place you've never been. And so as we think about the Middle Passage and the fact that Black Americans here who can trace their heritage back to the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, we truly don't have a home in Africa. We're not even sure which country most of us belong to. The majority, again, probably belonging to, Western Africa and those countries, where the Middle Passage really occurred and took place. And it gave me an idea of, yes, send me a ticket to Africa. I would love to go. Would love to go to Africa and experience a time with my heritage. And this brings me to inquiring of all of you out there. Do you have a passport? Can you get out to Africa or any place else that you might want to go back to? It's something that we should all be looking into. And one of my favorite things to do as an individual is to travel. And getting stamps on my passport is my favorite pastime. So I encourage all of you to look into getting a passport if you can do it. It's not always easy to do, or it is time consuming, and it can be costly, depending upon how fast you need to have a passport. But I do encourage you all to go ahead and get one for yourself and your family. It's just a good thing to have. And here in the United States, we just had our United States House of Representatives vote for the passage of the SAVE Act. And the SAVE Act is an anti-voter legislation, a bill that would impact the voting rights of almost everybody.
Really?
Almost everybody.
I didn't hear that. Where was I?
Now, the SAVE Act is truly going to impact those most disproportionately impacted would be Black and brown folks, for one.
Of course.
And then women or folks who are taking their spouse's last name. Because the catch with the SAVE Act is that you would actually have to have your current name be that of what is on your birth certificate. And so if you are someone who took your spouse's last name, your birth certificate is not going to match what your current ID might say. Because who has a husband or a wife to take their last name at birth? And this will cause a problem for many people, particularly married women, who are going to be unable to prove their citizenship, because that is the idea of the SAVE Act, that you must prove your citizenship in order to get registered to vote and cast a ballot. So let's not get this twisted and confused. You must show ID the first time you ever go to vote in Pennsylvania at a new precinct. And so showing ID proves that you are able to vote in the Commonwealth. Your citizenship is there. When you get registered to vote, there are processes in place to ensure only United States citizens are eligible to be registered to vote in the Commonwealth. And we're having safe and secure elections here in Pennsylvania. There's no need for any additional barriers to getting registered to vote or actually casting a ballot. This is an attempt to stop people from exercising their rights and their freedoms. Particularly when folks can't win at the ballot box, the next best solution, stop people from actually casting the ballot.
That's right. They playing a long game, huh?
But they've been at this for years.
Yeah, that's the long game. They playing a long game. I think that we need to become more knowledgeable about that long game, right? And sometimes we need to start playing the long game. We need some strategies here to, we see what's going on, right? So we need to start, let me take you in the back block. Kadida, let's talk. This is 2025. All right, when is the next election? What are we going to be doing? I think that's something that we need to be doing.
Yeah, we have to get involved in the long game, because there are folks that are being very patient in this moment and they're taking their time. And now things might move swiftly. So what's next for the SAVE Act? Now it's going to the United States House, and we'll find out if our United States senators are in favor of passage of the SAVE Act or not, if they're in favor of disrupting democracy, if they're in favor of making it harder and more restrictive for folks to actually get registered to cast a ballot. We're about to find out.
Wow.
So the last thing I'll say, because I was talking about, going back to Africa, I'm going to give a shout out here to the country of Ghana.
Okay.
And many Black folks who trace their lineage, from the Middle Passage here into America, even those in Jamaica or Haiti, they have Ghanaian ancestry.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of folks came originally, our ancestors came from the country of Ghana. Well, Ghana in 2024, they actually granted citizenship to 524 people, most of them Black Americans.
Wow.
They granted them dual citizenship. So Ghana, they actually have an initiative they're calling the Year of the Return.
Okay.
And so in 2024, they were asking for Black folks to come to Ghana, get reconnected with your heritage.
Come back home.
Enjoy this continent, enjoy this country, get access to business opportunities, strengthen your cultural ties with the homeland. And it's not all that expensive. It's almost just a little bit more than actually getting a passport. And so as of last year, all you had to do was complete an application, pay a fee that was like $200, and submit an application to the consulate there in Ghana, and you could become a dual citizen.
I need to talk to the consulate. We need a trip. We need a trip just to go over there for people to kind of experience, that culture, that lifestyle, and make a decision like, hey, maybe at the very least get dual citizenship.
I've seen a lot of folks who have gone over just on vacation, and they say, I don't even want to come back. Like, I'm enjoying my time here, and the cost of living is much better. There's no need for a credit check to actually rent an apartment in Ghana. So there's a lot of advantages, and it's Ghana and being on the continent of Africa is not the only place, particularly Black folks have been going. Expats, right? They're heading out of the United States. They're going to Portugal. They're going to Thailand. They're going to other places on the continent like Kenya, Nigeria. So, we don't have to stay here. That's it. We don't have to stay here, and we can take advantage of opportunities in front of us and experience different cultures, landscapes, and reconnect to our roots. So if you can do it, try it out. Take the family. Experience new things. I think the best money you can ever spend is on travel. And if you can do it, you should make it a priority for you and your family. Well, we've come to the close of this episode of Slingshot the Podcast. And I'm glad that you are with us. And I hope that you'll take this information today and you'll share it within your communities. One, we must protect not only the immigrants in this country, but also American citizens who also could be facing certain incarceration in a foreign land. So let's talk about this in our communities. Let's talk about the fact that there is a need to get into some good trouble still in this moment, to lift up voices that are voiceless in this moment and advocate for others and have our brothers' backs and have our sisters' backs in this moment. And that's kind of where we are. And speaking as an organizer, a Black woman who's been engaged in this work for quite some time, we've been in here trying to protect the rights of all people, not just our own rights and freedoms, but all people. And that's really what got that man, John McCarthy, upset, is that he saw a Black woman on an overpass advocating for someone she had never met, who had a Spanish last name, a Latino last name, who he thought shouldn't be in this country in the same way he thought I shouldn't be in this country when I know nothing else. And I've been fighting for this country all of my life. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Slingshot the Podcast. I hope that you took in some of this information and that you'll share some of this information with your family and friends. And I hope that this is an opportunity for us to recognize how fragile we all are in this moment and in this country, and how fragile democracy is in this moment. That all of our rights and freedoms could be taken away at a moment's notice, particularly of a lawless regime that is not paying attention to what courts have ordered or what the people are saying. You are the majority. And we can't allow for the minority of the population to take away our rights and our freedoms. And so I hope that you speak with your family and loved ones so that we can protect our rights and our freedoms here in this country. And here we are in Pennsylvania, joining you from Pennsylvania today, the birthplace of American democracy. And we're going to defend this democracy and to ensure that it can be realized for all of us. None of us are free until all of us are free. And thank you, Fannie Lou Hamer, for that message. Have a good day, everybody. I'm Kadida Kenner, and you're watching Slingshot the Podcast, the misunderstood voice, the culture's power.